Um, First off, that movie was a flop.
That's true.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't hate it, but as a Mario-based film, it tends to suck royal portions of both ass cheeks.
What's going on, guys? Back with another episode. TJ Green.
What up?
So this episode, I do believe, is covering we would call, the way it seems, as two topics in one, because
kill two birds with one stone here.
it's more of a video game thing that goes to a movie that have movies made out of games and all that, and yeah.
We're gonna talk about video game to movie adaptations. Movies that were done based off of very popular video games. Those that did well, those that didn't do well, and I'm, sorry to say, but there are more that didn't do well than those that did.
True.
I'm just gonna flat out say anything by Uwe Boll, you're not gonna expect anything genius out of. Those were absolutely dreadful. They were 10 hours or more that I will probably never get back, and I actually felt a little more stupid for watching them. But you got a whole bunch of very awesome video game series that rocked the core of the generation systems at the time. Everything from the Super Mario Brothers games of the Nintendo to Resident Evil of the PlayStation to Doom for PC to Final Fantasy for multi-platform. And right now, we're not going to list them all because to do that would be way too long-winded, and we just don't want to be that motivated right now. But we are going to talk about the ones we have seen, our opinions on that, and probably I would probably think close out with our hopes and expectations for video game movies in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I think we should probably just start out with Super Mario Brothers, since that's like the one that everybody seems to rip a new one.
Mm-hmm.
First off, that movie was a flop.
That's true.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't hate it, but as a Mario-based film, it tends to suck royal portions of both ass cheeks. And I mean, when you have one of the main actors of the movie in interviews in Game Informers and Nintendo Powers saying he absolutely hated the movie. Keep in mind, he didn't hate the actors who were there. He just thought the whole production of the movie was very rushed and very stupid. And what we all got from it was something that could have been done a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
There were many homages, like the moment where they got dressed in their colors and they looked like the Mario brothers from the video games. I thought it was nice in a way, but it was a different movie that people weren't as receptive to back when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
For me, as a kid, I expected a lot more. I was, really looking forward to, Super Mario Brothers movie. I'm like, oh, all right, this is my favorite video game ever. And then all of a sudden, we got Mario and Luigi Mario going after Daisy, who we don't know is a princess yet. We discover her as a princess in the city of Dino Hatton in an alternate universe. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever wrote this, whoever directed this, whatever drugs you were on, I'm glad they were potent for you. Um, I can understand trying to bring something new to the table in regards to certain things, especially with video games and storylines for certain video games.
I think it's also one of those things where there's good drugs and bad drugs.
Apparently, they were really, really good. Because if they weren't good, this would actually probably be a great movie. But it's a guilty pleasure for me because I did think the acting was very good, considering what they were dealt with for material. I thought the cast was perfect. Leguizamo as Luigi, Bob Hoskins. May he rest in peace as Mario. Dennis Hopper as Koopa. The acting wasn't horrible. They did everything they could to save that movie, but there's just no saving it. So my opinion is it is most definitely not an Oscar-worthy film, but it is worth checking out, if only for letting it be a guilty pleasure. I mean, did you see the movie or?
I don't believe I saw the movie in general, but I'll have to check it out.
So that was a pretty quick first movie topic there. But yeah, definitely, it is definitely worth checking out. It's a cute romp. If you try to take the Mario Brothers brand name away from the film, you do that, it's actually not a bad camp film. It is even a cult classic for those who have the perspective. But as a Super Mario Brothers brand named film, it just fell short of the mark. Why don't we talk about the Mortal Kombat movies? I think those are definitely two we both have seen. The first Mortal Kombat, starring Robin Shou and Lyndon Ashby as Liu Kang and Johnny Cage, and Bridget Wilson, Sonya, and Kerry Tagawa as Shang Tsung, and one of my all-time favorite sci-fi actors / heroes, Christopher Lambert, who used to play Connor McLeod of the Highlander movies, is Raiden in this. I thought it was a definite homage to the original story of the Mortal Kombat video games. I thought that the action scenes were very well filmed. The director of photography did a fantastic job with shooting the action scenes, and that's really tough too, because a lot of those spaces were enclosed.
It was good. I liked it, for the most part.
And you're working with a lot of CG.
Good action packed too,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you're working with a lot of CG too. I mean, look at the powers of of certain ones. Scorpion's spear, Sub-Zero's freezing ability, Reptile morphing into from the lizard thing in the beginning of the movie to his warrior form at the towards the tail end. Shang Tsung's power, where he can change into the form of a soul that he has taken. I think it was done very well. I don't think it was overdone. I don't think there was too much CG that wasn't necessary for the story. I think that there was also new things to it, like character development. Like Johnny Cage wasn't just the cocky, arrogant son of a bitch. He was arrogant and cocky at the beginning.
Very true.
And
very true.
He was out to prove himself, most definitely, but he evolved. He fought Goro to save the life of, to try to save the life of Sonya and his friends. And, the guy is arrogant enough to believe he can stop Goro, and he does. He follows through on his shit. He walks the, gotta give that fucker kudos. And for that moment, for him to bring out his signature nut punch from the video game, I mean, when you can do a split, a full-on split, and punch Goro, you know,
right in the nads.
Oh, dude, yep. You have just made everybody's day. I like the fact that Raiden wasn't just a typical, you know, one emotion mentor, just like the wise mystic, although he is wise. He has some humor in there. The guy is a smartass.
This is very true.
I mean, when he punches a flunky in the shoulder and shouts yes when Johnny Cage nut punches Goro right dead in the nads. Yeah, you've got a sense of humor.
Like, you want to see my sense of humor? Yep.
I think one of the most memorable Raiden lines for me was, "The fate of billions will depend upon you." Yep. Sorry. It was like, Raiden can be a dick. I liked the evolution of Liu Kang and how he was not a ready-made hero, but he was a hero with lessons to learn and fallibility. Not much else. I mean, not much else to say. I think I pretty much covered my impressions of Mortal Kombat, especially when I first saw it. I mean, just in general, like, what did you think of the first Mortal Kombat, I should say, before we get into the sequel?
Well, I think honestly you pretty much covered most of my thoughts, to be honest, because I agreed mostly with with what you had there to say, and overall I just in all honesty, I thought it was a great movie. You know, I mean, hey, it was definitely worth watching for sure.
I definitely, you know, for the older school, you know, older era video game to movies, Mortal Kombat was the first, you know, step in the right direction for things like that. And then they had to nearly ruin it with a sequel.
Oh yeah.
A sequel that was so piss poorly made, I should have been drunk when I watched it. Mortal Kombat Annihilation, ladies and gentlemen. Only 2 members of the original cast returned. When you are to the point where only 2 of your main actors return for the sequel, that should be your hint right there. This could be a crappy movie.
Oh, they went ahead with it though.
Oh, they did. They did. They recast Johnny Cage. They recast Raiden. They kill off Johnny Cage.
Horrible.
And the guy that got was doing a lousy imitation of Lyndon Ashby from the first movie. It was to the point where I felt like I should have been like I was when Snails dies at the end of well, not at the end, at the halfway point of Dungeons and Dragons, the movie. Marlon Wayans, when he gets stabbed by Bruce Payne, all I could do was have the biggest smile on my face and go, okay, where's the drink? I'll celebrate that. And I shouldn't have, because you're supposed to care about a main character dying.
Yeah.
Johnny Cage was one of my favorites from the first movie. They ruined him, and yeah, I mean, he sacrifices himself to save Sonya. At the beginning of the second movie, but it was one of those to where I was pissed at the fact of I don't think the build up for his death was done right, and I don't think it was meant right at the very beginning of the movie. It was like, we know as a screenwriter, we've already written way too many characters in this movie. We're just going to take a good chunk of them out right in the first 5 freaking minutes. So it suffered from character overload.
Yeah.
It really did. All the characters for the first one, they were needed for the first one. It was a tournament. You know,
And they start killing them off. You know.
In this one, they just had way too many. They had the Extermination Squad flunkies, which were just stuntman extras.
Yeah.
You had the generals of Shao Kahn's army. You had Shao Kahn. You had the Elder Gods. You had Shinnok, the main Elder God. You had Scorpion and Sub-Zero basically come back from their respective graves, even though Sub-Zero's... The Sub-Zero in this movie is the brother of the one that bit the cheese at the hands of Liu Kang in the first film. For me, the only good thing about this movie was the fights.
Yes, that's usually.
They were again shot really well. Liu Kang, the Robin Shou, the actor, was the stunt coordinator, not but the fight choreographer, I should say, for this film, and it shows. He's really adept at the martial arts. So yeah, I would say my first opinion of the movie, and my opinion still now, it's not a guilty pleasure for me. It's a movie I own just because of the fact that I'm a purist, and I would rather own a collection.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's a movie that is the equivalent of like a really big diarrhea turd.
Is that even possible?
Very, very possible. When it is the one that reminds you of just one lengthy round of a diarrhea freaking dump, and it overflows, that's a mark of a very bad movie. 2 thumbs extremely down, 2 middle fingers extremely up, and I hope I've heard that they've been on and off with negotiations for Mortal Kombat 3. If they, for the Mortal Kombat 3rd movie, like a sequel to that.
Yeah.
As long as they write it better and they bring back some of the original cast as much as many as humanly possible.
Yeah.
I think they could do really well, but I'm not counting my holding my breath on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like I said. It was it was good overall. It just didn't really. There was some ups and downs that I didn't agree with. Same with you. That's the sort of thing. It was. Yeah. It was mainly in it for the action, I guess you could say.
Yeah, the sequel is all about the action, on that, and you didn't really care about the story. You really didn't care about the story.
Like, fuck the story. I just want to see someone get hit in the nuts.
Yeah, basically.
Or get their head chopped off, one of them.
At the very least. The one, I think, and then we'll go on to a different movie.
Mm-hmm.
and series, but the one fanboy moment for me, was Sub-Zero using the ice clone in the fight against Scorpion, because in the video games I loved the ice clone move with the new Sub-Zero. I thought it was genius, and the fact that they were able to do that with the computer graphics and the practical effects, I was just very much a fan of, but again, that's one of the only saving graces of this movie, and it wasn't enough to save it completely.
Yeah.
How about you talk a little bit, since I kind of dominated the first couple of movies there. Your opinions on any of the Resident Evil films?
Well, as you know, as I'm sure all of you know, you've got yourself, Resident Evil 1, 2, and then what was it, Extinction? Or?
There was Resident Evil Apocalypse, Extinction, Afterlife, and Retribution just came out.
Which, to be honest, I gotta see that last one because it just came out. I haven't seen it yet. But
Retribution brings back most of the original cast from the first couple of movies, with maybe 2 exceptions.
Yeah.
I have seen Retribution, and it's not as good, but it's still good enough. Yeah. I really didn't have a whole bunch of issues with the newest one. I think each of the 5 has its own respective place in the larger story that they're trying to tell. I think it kind of reminded me of like the Fast and the Furious movies, or at least the ones that like the way that they try to tie them all in together and have the backstory that, you know, circles back around to Dom and Paul Walker, you know, Dom and Brian's stories. I like how it centers around Alice primarily, and what she goes through as a biogenically enhanced
Indeed.
hero, and then to have her biogenics taken away, and then
that was kind of fucked up.
That
was kind of fucked up, but that was
agreed.
One of those things where it's like, did that just happen? Okay.
I think that movie was meant, the one that happened for was meant to show what happens to a hero when all that made them a hero is stripped away. Can they continue being the hero, or do they fall down a different path?
She got her ass whooped.
Hardcore.
In that fucking crash.
Oh, man.
Ouch.
But still, she freaking, you know, she pulls her courage to the sticking place and wrecks some serious ass. And,
yeah.
To their credit, you know, it's really hard to make good Resident Evil movies, especially with some of the games not being so hot, in the series not being so hot.
Not being so, yeah, I know what you mean there.
The earliest forms of the game were terrifying. They were suspenseful. They were like the Dead Space of our time, only with zombies. And then I just think some, like, the more recent incarnations of the game or side incarnations left a lot lacking and to be desired.
It was kind of like Resident Evil 4 and 5, the game.
Yeah.
Game versions.
Yeah.
Those, in my opinion, weren't the greatest. They were good. They kind of sucked, story-wise.
I think Resident Evil 6, the one that just recently came out, was an improvement.
Definitely improvement. I haven't played it yet, but I can see the improvement in the trailers, to which I have to get the game now.
They definitely tried. You know, graphics-wise, cast-wise, top of the line, you know, as usual. But there's definitely a lot that leaves to be desired, and I don't think they explain the backstories of a whole. Not like, you know, obviously you can only do so much, especially with like the main protagonist and whatnot. But there were a couple of like new characters that I don't think were developed the way they should have been.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and that also is the mark of a good video game. Is that when you can compare things from the homages, the movies, to the, you know, to the source material, that's definitely the mark. My final opinion on the Resident Evil movie series is, while they're not candidates for movie of the year, they're in no way, shape, or form horrible movies. They are really good, really entertaining, engaging, action-filled, suspenseful, especially in the earlier two, Resident Evil and Apocalypse. Definitely worth seeing, and most definitely worth owning.
Yeah, and I think in my final thoughts there is what I liked about them is, going from one to the most recent one now, is that it really tells the story, especially the prologue to everything. For example, I believe it was Extinction or something like that. They kind of dove into a little bit of Alice's clones. You know her?
Oh, yeah. yes. The
program that what's his name was running underneath fucking desert with zombies.
Yeah.
Fucking ragging at the fences, but aside from that,
when she discovers the genetic the genetic clones based off of her.
But yeah,
the look on her face. She was pissed.
Although they did come in handy. In the one where she got her powers taken away. They did come in handy. What was that? What? Apocalypse or was it?
I believe that was Extinction. The desert one was Extinction.
So okay.
Because it was it was the desert in Nevada.
Okay.
The desert in Vegas, Nevada type of.
I found myself losing track of fucking which ones are which, but in all, I will definitely say is they're great movies to watch. They're good if you like that kind of thing. If you're not into that kind of thing, you're really not going to find it that really good, except for maybe some of the action scenes and all that and everything in between. So,
now I'll probably go into the most of the Uwe Boll series when we do a little bit more research. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I already said anything done by Uwe Boll has been a complete and utter train wreck. He was probably absolutely drunk when he made them.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way a sober man could make that many horrible films. But there's so many of Uwe Boll's direct video game adaptations. We will probably do a sub episode to tackle those in the near future. I want to talk about at least for me, there are two in particular I want to have covered before we cut out for today's episode. And that is Final Fantasy. They did 2 movies to date. One was called The Spirits Within, which I only saw once, and I'll go into my opinion on that in a second. And the one that I really, really want to go into some depth on is Final Fantasy VII, The Advent Children. I'm still, as everybody who watched this knows, I'm huge on Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I love the series. I thought most of the earlier games were phenomenal. 10 was fantastic. They were, story-wise, they were all fairly good, even though there were, with the newer ones, there was so much to be desired. So when I heard that they were making a CG-based Final Fantasy movie, I was looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
What I got was, in my opinion, the director and the producers of that movie pissing all over the Final Fantasy brand.
Mm-hmm.
It in no way, shape, or form to me recollected, reminded me of anything Final Fantasy. I think it was just a very piss poor attempt at a sci-fi fantasy film that should have been put in one of those brown paper bags
mm-hmm.
and lit on fire, like one of those flaming bags of turds you put on someone's doorstep during a Halloween prank.
Yes.
That's my opinion of that movie. It's a flaming bag of turd. So, Spirits Within, you are a flaming bag of turd. Congratulations.
And what happens when you let a flaming bag of turds sit there and burn without stepping on it? Well, it still stinks either way, doesn't it?
but the odor travels further.
It's true.
The real one.
But if it's on your shoe, then that's another story. Yeah.
Memento. Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. That I thought was to my opinion, it is the greatest video game movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I've found very rare, like very few of them, even back in the earlier instances, like Mario and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. They don't even come close. They did a storyline directly sequel based off of the events of 7.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in at least a few new characters. They gave them backstory. They gave them pathos. The graphics were insanely good. The fight scenes were kind of like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in origin, but with magical powers and swords and materia and all that. I thought it was the most faithful video game movie to the source material I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
And to be perfectly honest, I could end this episode with this movie alone, because you compare the earlier, anybody who makes a video game, they don't think that somebody's going to try to make a movie based off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or make a movie based off of it poorly. And there's always that risk. But it also means that if somebody made the effort to make the movie, they loved that movie to a point where they were like, okay, I want to tackle this.
Mm-hmm.
And the makers of Final Fantasy VII decided to take the bull by the horns and ensure that they weren't going to get critically ripped 9 different new ones for the production and distribution of Advent Children. And they had everything to do with from things to do with the casting of the voice actors, because it is the first time you've heard voice incarnations of characters like Cloud and Aerith and Sephiroth and Tifa and Barrett and those found in the original 7 game. And because of Advent Children 2, it would go on to do things attached to the Final Fantasy VII name to further the story, like Vincent's Dirge of Cerberus, Zack's Crisis Core for the PSP, which also told backstories of both Sephiroth, Cloud, Zack, Fair, and Aerith. But if and I can even I will actually close the episode on that. My final thought merges with it in that if you're gonna make a video game movie,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for you putting something new to it, but please be as faithful as possible to the source material. Please don't do anything to put an insult to the source material. If a video game is popular enough to have a movie made off of it, then you need to take that into account, because the fan base these days are brutal, because we all have opinions of great video games like Skyrim and Morrowind and Oblivion and the Batman Arkham games and all these different ones that we pretty much expect a movie to be made somewhere in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fighting game movies, like Tekken and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Dead or Alive and King of Fighters and things like that. It's like, in order to avoid making a bad movie, please pay attention to casting chemistry. Pay attention to the story. Make sure that if you're going to make a movie based off a video game, you can come up with a plausible story. And just, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, Final Fantasy VII is, you know, the Advent Children is perfect by any stretch. But it's the closest thing to for a video game movie that there is. Most of these are worth seeing. I'm not going to say they're not. You know, they're at least worth seeing once if you've never seen one before.
Just to get your, you know, your opinion set, whether you liked it or not, or whether you felt there was something wrong.
I mean,
because it's like everyone's going to have different opinions on everything.
Oh yeah, everyone's opinions are going to be entirely different in regards to their taste in film, as well as video, you know, etc. But at the same time, if more than one person who hasn't seen the, you know, that movie together, but they have seen it, come up with the same basic opinion of the game, or excuse me, the movie, you know, chances are, you know, that's definitely a sign. If you have the money to make a sequel, pay more attention. You know, Street Fighter was a cult classic, and then Chun-Li fell way short of the mark. Whereas vice versa, Final Fantasy Spirits Within fell way short of the mark. But Advent Children graduated with high honors. So that's definitely, you know, my opinion, and also my final thoughts on video game to movie adaptations. You know, just, you know, pay better attention, pay a better homage, and just pay attention to your fan bases, because, you know, without like going fan service crazy, they can tell you things, or at least directions, that they would rather see in a movie they're going to pay money to go watch in the theater, or waste on a direct-to-video release. So just, you know, future directors take that into consideration. That's my final thought.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I don't really have too much of a final thought, because truth be told, I haven't really seen the movies, but I'll have to take a look. You know,
there's a whole bunch of them out there, folks. I mean, you can Google the list. There's a wiki dedicated to that, and it's also, I think it also lists some that are due to be coming out in the next few years, that have been confirmed for production, and just take a look at the list. And if there's a video game that you like and it resonates with you, go ahead, check out the movies. Make your own, you know, educated decisions. And then, by all means, if you've seen the movies that we listed, and even a few that that we didn't, leave comments in the comment section at the bottom here. We'd love to, you know, hear your opinions on some of the movies / video games we discussed, and, you know, let us know. And again, also let us know things topic wise you want to see us, you know, cover on the AV&T, you know, because it's for you guys that we do the occasional recording. So for my end, you know, definitely, you know, take care. Catch you on the next adventure. Thank you so much for watching.
Have a good one, guys.
Yeah. 3/4 of the way across the goddamn map. 3/4 of the way across this map. On a jetpack, no less. He throws the grenade. I'm pretty much as far away as you can get, and it still gets me, and it still kills me. I'm like, WTFF. What the fuck? Well, let me
bitch out of the way. Okay. Oh, it's gonna be bad. Everyone, I'm gonna start,